Okay, so the retest piece today is going to be overhead squat, or if you find the overhead squat pretty comfortable position, we'll use Sots press. So with the overhead squat, the pieces that we want to assess on are going to be sort of comfort in that basic overhead position. So elbows straight, shoulders set, how easy it is just to hold it overhead. If you're having a problem here, it's probably going to be a rough day. Past that, as you move through range of motion on this, what we want to assess is comfort through that range. So what's your ability to keep your arms upright and your elbows locked, head in position? So as you move through that range of motion, really think about, are those elbows staying locked out? Can you keep your chest up, eyes forward? And what's your depth in that position? Are your feet staying flat on the floor? How comfortable is that range of motion? So as you work through that range, just keep those things in mind. So elbows straight, bars, ability to stay sort of over that sort of scapular ridge, depth at the bottom. Are you dumping or losing the hips at the bottom? Does your chest fall forward as you descend? Do you lose the foot to the inside or lose the heel from the floor? Those things are all the pieces that we want to sort of think about every time. So with that, strong overhead, smooth movement through the range, and just self-assessing for the comfort in that range of motion. With the Sots press, same sort of pieces, but assessed through a more challenging range. So with the Sots press, we'll start with the bar on our shoulders, descend to the bottom of that position, hold that chest up in position, eyes forward, and be able to press that bar straight to overhead, and then back down to the shoulders. And that's your other option for the retest today. Good luck. Piece one. So starting the same thing as last week. It's my sort of go-to to start. I switched out the less structurally sound roller for a heavy-duty roller. So 10 up and down on the side for the lats, followed by 10 on a 45-degree angle, followed by 10 on half of the back, and then switching sides. So 10, 10, 10 on each side. After that, moving to just up and down the spine for 10 reps, moving through flexion and extension, that sort of piece. You can sort of isolate a little bit more by staying on just the upper half of the back, but don't dig into any one spot too deeply if you're planning on training after. Otherwise, if this is just a full mobility day, you certainly can. You can seek and destroy a little more on the pieces. The one piece I'm going to add after the 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and then up and down the T-spine will be, I'm going to do one more pass with that double lacrosse ball. So just two lacrosse balls taped together. I'm going to lay that down and try to find the spot, sort of mid-back, base of the T-spine, and keeping one lacrosse ball on either side of the spine. It's not sitting directly on the spine. And I'm just gonna roll kind of like 1 inch at a time.
Is that your back, crunchy?
That's my spine. That's my supple tissue. So with this, you can work sort of in this position, but you can also sort of like pause, tuck the ribs, and reach to overhead through that range as you go as well. So cruising from sort of base of the T-spine up to the top of the T-spine. So just below, it's pretty, you can kind of, when you get to the spot, you're like, okay, that's high enough. You know, you don't need to go any further. So that is piece one. Piece two, we're gonna take a baseball. This also works with lacrosse ball. We're gonna pin it the same way we did last week with the trap and getting nice and low. This time, we're gonna work front of the shoulder into the pec. So hand behind the back again, working this area through here, pinned against the wall, and just sort of cruising around through that position. In this spot, you can also work and reach the hand to overhead and change that tension through the area a little bit and stay rolling. This can also be done on the floor just fine as well. I just like working sort of either off a post or off a corner of the wall. That's piece 2. So third piece, we're gonna roll triceps. This isn't quite as good as barbell in the rack, but it does work fair enough. So hard roller on the table, arm relaxed, just cruising through triceps from nice and high up into the armpit down to just right at that base of the tricep tendon near the elbow. And just cruising. In this case with these, I'd have a tendency, because it's less aggressive than the barbell, to just cruise and move with 90 seconds to 2 minutes for duration on this. With this, you can also flip from triceps into bicep and cruise and roll the same position through the bicep as well, cruising up close to that shoulder and then getting down close to that elbow joint. And just changing position to kind of be able to hit, that's better, probably be able to hit those spots on the front of the arm.
Okay, so the first piece of mobility I'm going to give you for overhead squat range is actually going to be for the ankles. I know there's a lot of focus on getting overhead shoulder range. Gotta go louder. So, but if your ankles are inflexible and you're not getting good flexion of that joint, then things are not going to stack very well moving up the chain, and so you're going to have a difficult time with shoulder range, even if your shoulder range is not too bad. So the banded ankle mobility stretch, if you don't have a band at home, then you can do like a manual ankle mobility. But if you're in the gym or you've got a band, what you're going to do is make sure that you put the band as low as you can on the bottom of the leg, so right at the joint line, and then walk your foot away as far as is comfortable. And then from here, it's kind of a balance between relaxing and not relaxing so much that your foot slips. So make sure your foot is really well planted on the floor, but let the band tug the joint. So you've got that joint line pressure. You're not necessarily going to feel a big stretch here, but what you're trying to do is actually glide the joint. So keeping everything stacked, even knee over foot. So try not to let yourself collapse. And then just stand there and really relax the ankle. So what you might notice that you're doing is tensing the muscles in the front of the ankle. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but sometimes people will push into the resistance. Don't do that. Let those shin muscles relax so that the joint can glide. And spend a bit of time here. I didn't do this before, but if you want to do a retest for this, then you can sit and bring both of yours, and you can actually see the difference already between the two, because I've only done that one there. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how much flexion you're getting. So that's the first one. The second one that I'm going to give you is to help decompress the rib cage. So even if your rotator cuff and lats are pretty open, if your rib cage is sitting high, it makes it really hard for the shoulder to stack into position. So your scalene muscles, which are on the front of your neck, attach into the top of your ribs. So we're going to try and open those up a little bit. So it's like a regular trap stretch, and you can start with that if you want. Definitely if you have really overactive traps, it's probably good to start here, pulling your nose down towards your armpit. But for the sake of decompressing the rib cage, I want you to think about bringing your head gently back. Be careful, because if these are really tight on you, it might give you a lot of sensation in there. So tilt your head back, really think about just letting the shoulder relax back into position. Don't use a weight that's too heavy, because sometimes I see people getting dragged down. You want to stay stacked. And then just hang out here. So once you've got your head back, spend 30 seconds there, and then you can rotate different directions and try and get into a little bit more. So that should help with keeping things low when you get into your overhead squat range as opposed to up here. So the third one I'm going to give you is going to help open up your external rotators of your rotator cuff. So that's the stuff that's on the back of your shoulder blade. If you've had work done on them, you are probably aware that they can be really sore and they can cause a lot of pain and referral in the front of the shoulder. So they tend to be they get kind of gummed up if they're having a hard time fighting against your lats and if you're really a rounded forward person. So it's a little bit counterintuitive to want to overmobilize them, but if they're sticky, you need to make sure they can fire properly to help keep you in that open position. So what you're going to do is you're going to get the ball in the back of your shoulder blade, so it's on top of the shoulder blade. But I like to do this lying down. You'll see people do it against the wall, but truthfully I think you'll just spend more time and do a better job on the floor. So put the ball underneath your shoulder blade, and you can feel around. You can find sore spots if you want, and I like to go into cactus position because I find the way it slacks the tissue off, it makes it easier to get in there, and you'll probably get a lot more referral from that too. But you can then just move your body around a little bit. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just rolling up and down on the shoulder blade pretty far out to the side, almost right up to where the back of the tricep is as well. So spend a little bit of time here, and that should help give you some strength power in opening up that range.
Hello folks, welcome to my 3 pieces. So for my first piece, I'm going to be adding on the wall stretch that you guys saw last week. So for this, you'll need a band if you have it. If you don't have a band, don't worry about it. But also your handy broomstick or length of PVC that I have here for the second piece. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hook the band on the knee on this side, and I'm just going to loop it around my low back and then hook it on the other knee. So you essentially have it looped around the base of both knees there. And then from there, we're just going to get into our wall sit position where the tailbone or the pelvis is still flat on the ground, and then just with our squat width. And then you'll notice that the band, if you have it, can gently sort of pull those adductors open. Then from there, we're going to grab our PVC or whatever implement you have, and we're just going to grab our overhead squat grip, and then from there we can move through some pass-throughs, working back to the ground and working back up. And the idea is that when you move through some reps and the range improves, we can sneak the hands in inch by inch to get more out of the shoulders. Again here, trying to keep those ribs down and spine flat on the floor as we're pushing those shoulders through that range. So my second piece is going to be using the wall as well. So this is just a general adductor stretch. It's really nice because you can sort of let gravity do the work here, similar to the box stretch last week, where I'm just going to sort of be in the same position as the wall squat. I'm going to spread my legs and just let my feet fall to the sides. And just hanging out here for roughly 90 seconds to 2 minutes. And then my third piece is going to be a little wrist stretch. So yeah, super common for people to sort of have aggravated wrists during or after some exposure to heavy overhead squats. So I like these just to sort of calm them down. And what I find is that you realize sort of how the forearms can really be neglected. So this is just something to bring sort of attention and awareness to that. So from here, I just like to sit on my heels, knees bent, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plant my full hand, fingers spread on the floor, and then I'm just gonna sort of sit back while keeping that hand fully planted and let that stretch out there. So I can ease into that stretch, and then when I'm happy, I can sort of hang out here again for that 90 seconds to 2 minutes. And then sort of an added piece to that is I can sort of bring the inside of the elbow, and I can rotate that in towards myself, and you're gonna get more in sort of the inside of the forearm, a good stretch there. And then when I'm happy with both sides, what I can do is I can also do a counter stretch for this one, which is essentially gonna be the same thing, but instead of palm down, I'm gonna go palm up. And the same piece here, I'm just going to ease down and let the forearm stretch through here. And those are my pieces.